My name is Jose Vargas, and I am on a mission to help you create breakthroughs in your personal and professional life so that you can grow and lead your life with excellence. Welcome, everyone, to the Jose Vargas Show. This podcast was created for leaders to help leaders strategize to create breakthroughs so that you can lead yourself and others effectively. I am your host, Jose Vargas. Thank you so much for listening. And in this episode, I sit down with the author of Next Level Leader, Jeff Cochran. And I want you to listen in. I want you to take some notes and get ready to take your leadership to another level. All right, Jeff, thank you so much for being here. Ladies and gentlemen, I want to welcome Jeff Cochran. He is a leadership development consultant. He is the author of a brand new book called The Next Level Leader. Do you have it right there, Jeff?
I do. I got a bunch of copies
boy.
I signed last night just to send them out to people. So there's it.
That is awesome. That is awesome. Jeff, welcome, and thank you so much for being here at the Jose Vargas
Thanks for
Show.
having me.
Thank you. So, we've been following each other. We're both passionate about leadership development. We're passionate about serving people and just touching people and helping people, get from where they are to where they need to be, right? Where they were created to be.
That's right.
So thank you for being here. Just to start off, just tell us a little bit about yourself. Tell me about your story. I know that, we've been following each other for a little bit, but I know that you were a pastor and now you're a leadership consultant. So tell me about your story, your journey. Take us through that.
Yeah, well, I've spent the last 17 years prior to 2021 in local church ministry. So close to 18 years. It was about to be 18. And spent most of that in student ministry, man. Most of my career has been working with the next generation. But about 4 or 5 years ago, I started working for a company called Ministry Architects on the side. With Mark DeVries and Jeff Dunrankin and just some of the smartest ministry and nonprofit minds in the world. Got into consulting that way and fell in love with being able to travel and meet new people and new churches and new spots and really began to see a gift that they saw in me. And it kind of began to change something in me. So I knew I had a gift for communication. I knew I had a gift for leading teams. I knew that the gifts that I had in the local church, what I didn't know was the gift that I had to walk into a situation that wasn't mine and be able to see it clearly. And what I realized was I'm a better leader walking into a situation that is not mine than even being in a situation that I'm in, because we all get blinders, right?
Right. Absolutely.
And I discovered this, not only this gift, but a passion for being able to walk in and see church leaders and nonprofit leaders and eventually business leaders and being able to walk in their situation after they say, hey, I've been stuck on this for years, and saying, hey, if we did X, Y, and Z, it would help you get unstuck. And I would love to help you with that. And really, it was a perfect example of what Donald Miller talks about with you're not the hero of your own story. The hero is everybody that you can help go further, help go faster. So that kind of began part of my journey. The other part of my journey where the book came from, the book is called Next Level Leader. And about a year before I started working for Ministry Architects, I went from working at a church where I had a student ministry of about 85 students.
Okay.
And went to leading a student ministry of over 500 a week and over 1,000 a month.
Wow.
So I had more volunteers, Jose. I had a volunteer team of over 200. I was leading more volunteers and leaders than I was leading people before.
Wow.
So it was a huge shift for me. And when I got there, I wasn't thinking, wow, I've arrived, right? What
awesome.
I was thinking was, how long is it going to take before they realize they made a mistake? And I don't know what I'm doing, right?
Yeah.
And I think we've all been there, that imposter syndrome.
Yes.
So before I took that job, they gave me the job, and it was like all of a sudden all the confidence melted. And it was like, okay, now I got to figure out what I'm doing. I talked to them into giving me this job, and I just started calling people. I called every great leader. Didn't matter if they were in the church world, the business world. I called every great leader I knew. I would email them. I would badger them and just said, hey, can I get 30 minutes of your time? And so many of them never answered, couldn't get past the gatekeepers, but some of them did. And I'll never forget a guy by the name of Ricky Ortiz. At the time, he was working at New Spring when Perry Noble was there, big church kind of blowing and going. And he took the time to talk to me about stepping into this large role in the multi-site church world and how it was going to be different. And he actually talked to me about something that I never heard before. And he said, hey, don't lead backwards. Most people come in, they make changes, then they listen about how those changes are received, and then they evaluate.
Wow.
So you want to do it totally different. You want to lead backwards, Jeff. He said, come in and do nothing but listen for 6 months. Listen to the problems that are already there. Listen to what's going on in people's hearts, what makes them passionate, what makes them scared. He said, they'll tell you how to fix a lot of the things that you won't see if you don't listen. He said, after you spent 6 months listening and you feel like you're doing nothing, then evaluate, what have they told me? Bring some other people along to help you evaluate, and then make changes. He said, we make changes, we bring other people on to evaluate, we get to the end and we make another change, and the people said, I knew that the whole time. He said, if you'll learn to lead backwards, you'll be more successful. So I came out of that interview and it changed my leadership. Like the next 6 months, I won in ways that I would have never won, because lo and behold, the people on the ground knew what was going on and no one had ever asked them. So that was kind of a cool moment for me. And it started me down this journey of saying, I still don't know what I'm doing, but if I'm going to figure this out, I have to find people who are further ahead.
That's good.
I have to find people who have things I don't. And I wanted just to become a sponge. So I wrote down 6 months into that job, I wrote down a question. This was 4.5 years ago. And the question on my board that sat there for probably the next 12 months was, what separates average leaders from those who go to the next level? And every time I met a leader who was farther ahead than me, it could be someone that you know, right? Like I got to ask this question to people like John Maxwell. But I also got to ask this question to people that our listeners are probably never going to know.
Right.
But every time I found a leader that was ahead of me, I asked him that question and I cataloged the answer. I had an Evernote document and I just kept thousands of answers over the next year.
Wow.
And I realized that everybody said pretty much the same 15 things in different ways, and really the same 3 things in different ways. And that was where the book came out of. The book was an accident because my leadership began to transform, and I knew it was only just scratching the surface. Actually, probably the last 18 months, the people who are around me would say, Jeff, in the last 18 months, your leadership's transformed more than ever. What happened? Like, you're on a whole different level. And I'll tell them, I'll kind of pick up. Of course, now I can pick up the book. I was just talking about the manuscript, but I'll say, I started eating my own cooking, man. Like, I finally had enough of the stuff together. I had it together to where I could say, hey, I got a solid 18 months on this development program the right way with everything in one spot. And it's changed who I am. So wow. I really felt like God was calling at the end of 2020. And he had been stirring things in me since the pandemic started. And he'd been stirring some things in me, Jose, about the future of the local church, because the post-pandemic church is going to look different.
Absolutely.
And there's really 2 camps right now. There's the churches that are trying to figure it out. And then there's the churches who are saying, hey, we've been successful. We want to get back to normal. And for anybody who's listening, who's in pastoral ministry, I would just say this: church is not going back to normal. And that's the only way to fail, I think.
Yeah.
So I had some of those things on my mind and I wanted to work on those, but I felt God stirring me and really saying, Jeff, I want you to serve the church, the people of the church, outside of the institution of the church. And I love, like, the church that I served at, I still go to every weekend. My wife works at that church. So we love the local church, but I felt like I could serve the people on a different level outside of it. And so what I'm looking for now, I'm looking for kingdom influencers everywhere I go. And when people ask me what I do, I say, hey, I find kingdom influencers, men and women in the business world, the nonprofit world, even pastors in the church world. Anybody who says, Jesus has changed my life, that's affected my leadership, and I have a dream or a purpose that I'm trying to fulfill, I want to be the one that comes alongside of them and just says, hey, how can I help move obstacles? How can I help make this easy? How can I help blaze a trail? How can I give you some outside insight that maybe you wouldn't get on your own, because I wouldn't get it on my own, but I'm not in your day-to-day, so I can see a little more clearly. And being a person who networks people and brings resources together. So if anybody comes and I can come in contact with them and say, hey, you have a kingdom purpose and you just need a little help getting there, I want to be the guy who helps you. So my actual goal, my biggest goal this year, and you've heard this, is to help 25 people write their own books, right? I don't want my book to be the bestseller in my life. I want to help hundreds of people write books that sell better than mine and make a greater impact than mine. because my legacy is going to be the people that I help. So that's how I got on this journey. And in January 1st, took the leap, scared to death, went in mid-December and said, hey, I'm leaving. Yeah. I don't have a plan other than just I'm going to start helping people. And started my own LLC. Have been doing that for about 6 weeks now. And still have a ton of questions, still have a ton of anxiety, and there's fear that creeps up on days. But I've also never been more excited and more passionate, Jose, because this is what I was created to do. Mm-hmm. And I know that what I was created to do is help other people do what they were created to do. And if I can pass this feeling on to others, then it's better than the anxiety that comes with it. Like, I'll just tell you, man, it really gives you something to wake up for in the morning.
That is awesome. Wow, that is awesome. And it's so true. Oftentimes as leaders, we have, and I love your being vulnerable and transparent, that even though you took a leap of faith, even though you took, that next level in your leadership, you still admit you don't have it all figured out, and I think that's good to note, because oftentimes in our social media driven world, right. Yeah. And that everybody's posting their highlight reels, everybody wants to tell you that they have it figured out. And so, Jeff, what would you say based on your book, the Next Level Leader, what would you say to someone who's listening right now, who may not necessarily, quit their job, but maybe they're stuck at a point in their lives where they're contemplating different things. They're contemplating their leadership, their home life, their business. What would you say are some of those practical principles that you would apply? Maybe the top 3 things in your book on how to become that next level leader, that even though you may not have everything figured out, as you begin to plan and as you begin to move, the plan will begin to unfold itself. So what are some of those tips?
Well, first, before I say that, I want to piggyback off something that you said that I thought was huge. I don't trust leaders who say they have it all figured out or who try to act like they do. Right. So I've always kind of said it this way, Jose. A leader who thinks they have all the answers, they're not a leader, they're a liar. They're just a good actor. So if you're listening and you want to immediately level up your leadership, just start being honest about the things you don't know. People will make you better. Leaders aren't supposed to know all the answers. We're just simply supposed to be the ones that are willing to blaze a trail and ask the hard questions. So in my book, I bring everything around 3 sections, 3 kind of main, what I call leadership spheres. And I've got a great illustration that I can give you, but it's the leadership triangle. If you think about leadership, it is a triangle. It's got 3 sides. And at the base of that triangle, you have inner drive. Some people call that a burden. Some people call that passion, but it's inner drive. That's what makes people self-starters, self-motivated. It's what gets them going instead of waiting on someone else to push them, right? Mm-hmm. We have to have something, if we want to lead at the next level, if we want to escape average, we have to have something that drives us from the inside, from a gut spiritual level. It's got to be something that gets you up out of bed in the morning. You got to have a why, okay? So you got to have the inner drive, and that's the base. If you don't have that, it's hard to make the most of the others. The other side of the triangle is outward focus, right? So you think where inner drive intersects there with outward focus. I've got to have a focus on other people. Yes. How is what I'm doing making a difference in other people? Because whether you're a person of faith or not, it doesn't really change the fact that our design as humans is to make an impact farther than us. Right. Right? There's no fulfillment in just reaching the top of the mountain. If you reach it alone, it's not fulfilling.
It's really not.
No. And so if you can reach the top of the mountain with people, that's the outward focus, right? So it's focusing on people. It's focusing on how I can affect people. It's focusing on how I can care for people. So that's all. Inner drive is all about the stuff that pushes you, the stuff that drives you, the stuff that gives you energy. Outward focus is all about other people and how you can serve them. And then the last side of that triangle as it comes together is what I call discipline determination. It's the discipline where discipline and habits meets the determination that simply says, I refuse to quit. I'm not going to stop. I'm not going to back down. I'm going to do the hard things. I know you had a post on social media a few weeks ago that was kind of a gut punch, man, because it was a day where I was struggling through some things, and you said, hey, this is what success looks like. It's 4 a.m. in the morning. I'm trying to get this podcast out. I'm trying to do these other things today. This is the side that people don't show you. Right. That's discipline determination. I'm going to have to get up earlier. I'm going to have to go to bed later. I'm going to have to prepare. I'm going to have to walk through those things. So Jose, when you take the three sides of the leadership triangle, they actually all break down much further. So I will share a little bit with you about what that looks like, what those individual traits looks like. So for inner drive, it starts with hunger. And that's that passionate side. That's that why that really does drive me. Like, I'm getting out of bed quick because I have something to do. I have something that matters to me, right? Yes. But it's things like preparation. Nobody prepares well because it's fun. Right. We prepare well because it matters.
Yes.
Right? What we're doing is it matters. So are you a leader who prepares? It's initiation and finishing. You know, it's a leader who cares, a leader who's driven. They're going to be a self-starter, self-motivated. You don't have to tell them what to do. You just have to give them a direction to run, right? And that's why I like to think of where I'm at. I just need a direction to run, man. And if you give me a direction, please don't stop me until I'm done.
Right. And you're unstoppable. You're unstoppable once you have the direction. Yes.
Exactly. And finishing goes with it, though. And a lot of us will be better at starting or finishing. The leaders that put them together, it's super powerful, because finishers are the ones who say, I'm going to take everything I do 10% past the finish line. Because I know that what I thought was done initially is never actually done, because there's something I'm going to find on the back end. So, and then the last one in drive is audacity. It's the willingness to take risks to see my passion. It's exactly what I just did. It's the willingness to leave a good job at the top of my field. I mean, man, I was at a top 50 fastest growing church, or top 50 largest church, top 30 fastest growing church in the country. Wow. It didn't make sense for me to leave my field. It didn't make sense for me to leave my church and the people I love, except for I had a drive to do something that God had called me to do different, right? I wanted to help leaders in a different way. So that was the audacity to take those risks. When you think about outward focus, it's things like loving. You cannot be a good leader if you don't care about people.
Absolutely.
Period.
Absolutely.
Most leadership books don't talk about that. Most business leaders don't think about love. What separates the great ones, man, from the ones that just never seem to do more, those that get stuck at average for their entire career, a lot of times it's love. It's caring about people.
Yeah.
But it's also empowering.
Yeah.
Right? It's giving away authority, meaningful authority to other people, and saying, I want you to be the hero of this project, of this story.
You know what? And Jeff, and I don't mean to cut you off, but can you just, like, even that point, can you unpack that a little bit? Because I think that's a point that a lot of leaders don't really talk about, you know, where you're truly looking at people in the eye, where you're truly listening, where you're truly caring. Can you just unpack that? How can a leader get to that point where, you know, because these are a lot of traits and a lot of attributes and a lot of skills that we should, and muscles that we should be developing as leaders. Yeah. But can you just unpack that just a little bit on how can people start developing that within the context of their leadership, whether they're leading and influencing, you know, a group of 5 or a group of 500 or 5,000, it doesn't matter.
Well, and the way they fit together is so powerful. And that's what I do in the book, is break it down super deep for each one of those traits and how they fit together. But I think with empowering and loving, when you're thinking about the first two parts of outward focus, I've got to just decide I'm a hero maker and not a hero, right? That is huge. Dave Ferguson wrote a book called Hero Maker that changed my life a few years ago. And it helped me look at this part through a little bit different of a lens. But if I want to be the hero, then I have to get the credit for the project that went well. I have to be the one who people knew it was my idea, right? But if I don't have to get the credit, then I'm willing to take failure to shield my people, to shield my team members. I'm willing to take that failure response. But more than that, I'm willing to let them pass off my idea for theirs, right? I'm willing to let them be the one that has the spotlight for the project, which was an idea that I started. And it's not that you just give it to people, but in everything you do, it's saying, hey, how can I step out of the role of hero and into the role of hero maker? I can make a hero if this goes well. And if it doesn't go well, I'll be the villain of the story. I'll be the one who messed up. I've got the leadership equity to take that. I'll take that on the chin. But if it goes well, I want to be a hero maker. And I can define someone's career by letting them take the lead on a few projects that my insecurity says, no, Jeff, you need to show people you've still got it. Well, if I have to prove, Jose, to my leaders that I still have it because I haven't been the lead name on some projects, then I've got the wrong leaders and the wrong organization that I'm working for.
That's so
right.
good.
A great leader should be able to step into the background.
Yes.
But then one of the next ones, because you have loving, you have empowering, you have listening. And listening fits perfectly with those. It's actually, I'm doing a podcast on it next week. But most people don't know the difference between being listened to and being loved. They cannot tell the difference. We live in a world today where everybody's on social media. Everybody's trying to become an influencer. Everybody's saying, hey, me, hear my stuff. And I know that sounds hypocritical because I'm on social media everywhere, all the time, right? This year I've worked to grow a YouTube channel over 1,000, a TikTok following of almost 50,000.
Wow.
But the way I grew it was using this process. It's not about me. It's not about me being a hero because everybody's going, look at me. Look at how famous I should be. Look at how smart I am. But if you just say instead, I want to share everything I've learned and I believe you can be better than me. I want to help you. What questions do you have? How can I serve you? How can we serve each other? Dude, it messes with people's minds.
Right.
But most people, if you really think about it, because all they see all the time, all they hear all the time is everybody talking and projecting who they are. Most people are having to fight through the noise. Even in their own homes, even with their own families, they're having to fight through the noise. So if you're a leader who steps in and proactively listens, and you start, I challenge every leader listening to start their next one-on-one with someone they lead, someone on their team this way. Tell me what's going on in your life. How are you doing? What's going best? What's going worst? And how can I help you reach your full potential right now? And then try not to talk for 30 minutes. That's your goal. You can win a meeting as a leader, not all the time. Sometimes we have to speak into people.
Right.
But sometimes we can win a leader by simply saying, my goal is to talk for less than 5 minutes this meeting. Because I can't make heroes if I'm the only one talking. All I can do is make clones. And I don't want to make clones of me. I have enough problems as it is. I want to make better leaders than me, right? So when you listen to people, it opens up this idea where they're like, there's something different about that guy. There's something different about that woman. They care about me.
Yes.
So even if you don't feel like you're a super caring leader, super loving leader, because not everybody's wired that way.
Right.
If you will empower people, if you will listen to people, and you will encourage people, they'll actually think you're the most loving leader on the planet.
That's right.
Even if you go, actually, I struggle with people in that way, they'll go, well, I can't tell. And that's another one of them is just encouraging. Publicly, call out what you see in people. Like, do it publicly. Let everybody know and call out what you see long before they see it. And I actually had a leader who would say this to me, over the past 4 or 5 years. He would say, Jeff, one of your biggest issues is you overbelieve in people, right? I'm talking about a high executive level leader in my world. And I would laugh at him because when I first got to that church and for most of my leadership journey, people would say, Jeff, you're critical. You don't believe in people enough. And then a couple of years ago, started having this conversation of, hey, your biggest holdback is you over believe in people. And I started laughing and he's like, why are you laughing? And I said, because that's not my natural, But he said this, he said, I think it's a little bit of an overcorrection. And on this one, and maybe I'm wrong, but as a leader, we got to have that drive, those convictions, the places where we say, I'm willing to be wrong here.
That's right.
And my conviction is simply this. I said, hey, I really appreciate the feedback. And it threw him off because I take feedback and I listen and I want to learn. But on this specific instance, I said, I don't think it's possible to over believe in people.
That's so true.
They may not reach the potential that I see, but the potential is there. And if I don't call it out, they'll never reach it.
Right.
Right? Somebody has to call it out. And it doesn't have to be me, but why not me?
Yeah.
Why does it need to be another leader who calls it out? And I don't want to, and again, being a pastor for so long, I thought about it this way. I don't want to stand before God at judgment and him show me a line of people and him say, hey, I showed you the greatness in them. I showed you the call and the purpose they had on their life. And I wanted you to call it out and you didn't and no one else did. Why did you steal their destiny from them?
Yeah.
I don't want that.
Yeah. And that's a great point because you do have to, balance that with what you truly see, right? You can't just, tell people something that it's not really there and give them false hope, right? So, and I like what you said because you genuinely, truly saw them at their best. And I think that's one of the key components of leadership, seeing people for who they, not only for who they are, right? Valuable for who they are as human beings, but seeing them for what they could become, and seeing those little things. And you said something in the beginning, I can't quite remember it, but it was powerful. And you said something that, basically we get to see it from the outside. We get to see in sometimes what people can't see themselves. And I think that's our job as leaders, right? To be able to see from the outside looking in, hey, I see this in you.
That's right.
Man, if only you would see it in yourself, you would imagine how powerful and how far your life will go and your leadership will go. So Jeff, what do you think now then is the biggest challenge that leaders face today?
Honestly, if I could only teach one of the traits from this, I would say it's this: we have to learn a greater level of resilience. We have to. We live in, probably, just my opinion, it could be wrong, the least resilient leadership culture that I've seen in my time. And there's a lot going on in the world. We need to be more resilient than ever, right? But a lot of people would fold and change their leadership when a leader tells them you overbelieve in people. Well, I don't overbelieve in people, but what I did was I had to mine through that person to dig and find that potential. I wasn't giving them false hope. I had to find it, but I took months to find it. So I don't overbelieve in them, but I have to get them to find something that's buried deep, right? That's what we got to do. But resilience, man, resilience is self-leadership at its core. So under the third section, discipline, determination, talk about things like being a learner, being an evaluator, managing conflict, which out of all the ones that I measure, the lowest leadership trait that's measured nationwide is managing conflict. So it's got to get better too.
That is so true.
Leaning into healthy conflict is tough. So it's kind of a toss between that and resilience, because we have kind of a passive aggressive leadership culture going on right now, and people get cut loose and they don't know why. And then there's also the self-awareness of leading from your strengths. Now, when your weakness is leading from your strengths. But at the end of the day, if you cut away all of those, resilience is self-leadership that multiplies your impact. And I use the example in the book. The best example I can think of is hitting the wall when you're running. Are you a runner, Jose?
I run, but I'm not an active, like, everyday runner now.
Well, this video is not like a full video, but I'm a pretty big guy. I'm sitting at about 240 right now. 240, 5'10" and a half. Okay, I'm a big dude. Okay, I don't run these days, but I ran in high school. I ran in college. I ran until I started having some knee issues that kind of shelved me there. I ran cross country in college and loved it. Used to run half marathons just for the fun. And in running, anytime you're talking about a marathon and training for a marathon, which was my next big goal before I had to stop, you talk about hitting the wall. And in a half marathon, you can hit the wall, but most likely you're going to hit the wall in a marathon. And I've got friends who are running ultras now, like 50+ mile races, crazy. But when you hit the wall, your body literally sabotages you and shuts down and says you can't go any farther. And you usually hit the wall around mile 18 to mile 20. Well, in a 26.2 mile race, you're almost there, right? You went through the hardest part. You were almost there, and you hit this wall, and that's where you see people collapse. That's where you see people stop and go to the hospital and say they can't do it. And some of those things, it's because they didn't prepare well, right? But a lot of times it's just the mind. Our mind is the strongest muscle in our body. Our mind can tell us that we can go farther than we think we can. Absolutely. Or that we can go less. But our natural default is that your mind will always tell you, hey, that's pain, stop it.
Right.
That hurts, stop it. Well, every time you feel pain, your brain's trying to protect you by saying, hey, stop this. Your brain is going to stop you at minimum 25% before as far as you can go, right? And if you go farther and you say, okay, brain, I know you're telling me that. I appreciate that. But I've got at least another 25% in me. So I'm not going to take it all. I don't want to hurt myself here. But I got 6 more miles. Can I finish 6 more miles of this race? Can I finish this project? Can I finish this year out? Can I finish this season? Can I finish this book? Can I get a whole year of this podcast in? That sort of, we're asking those questions. Well, if we know we can go further, then what happens? Well, now I take it 15% further. Okay. And I finished the race, but because I took it 15% further, now I've grown all those muscles again. I've reset my limit, and I do it again, and I can go a little further. I do it again, I can go a little further. There are places where 10 years ago, my mind said, Jeff, you can't do this as a leader, where now I'm doing 3 times as much. And the truth was, I couldn't do much more at that time. But I could keep going 10% farther, 10% farther, 10% farther, until, I doubled and tripled what I was able to do. So the art of self-leadership is resilience and saying, I simply refuse to give up. And I can't jump over, okay? I can't jump over the wall. I can't run around it. The only thing you can do with the wall is run through it. And you see a brick wall coming, you're so tired, and you say, I'm going to hit that brick wall. It feels like I'm going to die. But when you realize, no, I'm not. Other people have scaled this wall. And if God has called me to it, if it's my purpose, if it's my passion, I can do it, right? Yeah. And you run through that wall. And even if you don't, I have a buddy, his name is Jonathan, who he had never ran a marathon or a half marathon, hadn't even ran a 5K. And he decided, I'm going to be a runner, right? And he'll tell you, he doesn't recommend this, but he's a guy that said, hey, I quit on everything in life for way too many years. I quit. And I just decided God had not called me to be that guy who quits early. So I'm not going to quit. And he said, I started taking big risks just to kind of get to this point where I forced myself to lead myself differently, because he would cut things off at 40%. He just didn't want to fail. Well, he ran his first race. It was like a 40-mile ultra. And he made it past marathon space before he stopped, fainted, passed out, had to stop, did not qualify, right? Did not finish. But he kept running. And now he's finished multiple ultras. He is an ultra runner, and he'll go back and say, I probably should have done that differently. But he said, for me, I needed to find failure and then back it off. Starting with a 5K, well, then that says, I can do a 5K and a half marathon and a marathon. Most people don't run a marathon, so I'm okay, right? But no, he found from the beginning that his failure point was past there. So I would tell leaders to build resilience, which is the number one thing we need to build. Look for failure like it's your best friend. Search for it, find it. And when you find failure, celebrate it. Because one, the people who are looking at you going, oh my gosh, you failed, very rarely are they pointing the finger and laughing. Most of the time they're going, I can't believe you got that far. Yeah. I would have quit. How did you get that far? Tell me. Well, I believed in myself and I pushed. But you've also got to celebrate failure, even if people are pointing, even if people are laughing, even if people are trying to make you feel insecure, and say, hey, now I know where I need to get better. I know where my lid is at, and I know that I can actually go farther than I thought I could before I started this. So I know you think it's a bad thing, but it doesn't bother me at all. Let me tell you why. And when we celebrate failure as leaders, not people failing because they weren't prepared, not people failing because they didn't do their due diligence, but if we celebrate failure because people push so hard, then guess what? One, they know where their limits are. They're more self-aware than they've ever been. But two, they're going to fight past those limits. People who find failure don't fail often. People who look for failure don't actually fail often because they keep scaling it and forward. People who are scared of failure fail the most. So if we could stop being scared of failure, be resilient. And it's kind of a weird example, but I use J.K. Rowling as an example of in the book of that chapter. And when I was doing it, my publisher actually said, hey, Jeff, J.K. Rowling's not like your normal leader. So maybe you need to pick a different example. And I said, no, she was homeless, a single mom, wrote a book that they only put out 500 copies of, that ended up becoming a bestseller, is now leading all of this film industry, all of these businesses. And I said, so she doesn't look like a huge leader because she doesn't lead teams. She led herself, and she led herself into something new.
And tell the audience what book she wrote, what movies she wrote, just in case.
The Harry Potter series, one of the most beloved books of all time, man.
That's right. Wow. That's powerful, Jeff. Well, Jeff, thank you so much. We're running out of time here. I really appreciate you taking the time to really speak to the leaders listening and helping them create those strategies to get their breakthroughs. And that's what we're all about. Yeah. Jeff, where can people find you? Where can they find your book? When is your book out? Is it out already available? It
releases on March 2nd, but it's available for pre-order now on Amazon. You can search Next Level Leader, Jeff Cochran. It's going to pop up. Or you can go to jeffcochran.online. That's where I have everything. You can click on books. It's going to show you how to get there.
I'll also add it to the show description.
Awesome.
In case. Yeah.
Awesome. And then all over social media, pretty much, whether it's LinkedIn, Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, jeff.a.cochran. That's my handle. You'll find me there. And I would love to connect with leaders, and just anytime message me, let me know how I can serve you, because the world's never needed leaders more. And if we can have people step into their breakthrough, it's not just your breakthrough, it's a breakthrough for hundreds of others.
That's right. That's right. Thank you so much, Jeff. I appreciate you. Thank you for being on the show.
Thanks for having me, man.